Welcome, everyone, to Sunday Fuel. I am your glorious host, Sacred Prophet, joined as ever by my plucky co-host, Peter.
Hello. Just a regular voice here. Hello.
Peter, I wish I could be as ignorant and jovial as you are at this moment.
So stupid.
But we're on the verge of a tragic time.
Are we?
Sunday Fuel is the show where we look at the trades from the week past, looking at the trades for the week ahead. And what we talked about last week was that if Bitcoin moved in a particular way, it might spell doom to Bitcoin. And that's what happened. In fact, in my wildest dreams, I didn't imagine such a bearish setup.
Oh, God. Oh, God. No.
Is this the end of the cycle?
Oh, no.
Is this the tragic doom of Bitcoin?
Tell me there's a twist coming.
Look, let's just take a look at the twist is we bump our views up to where they need to be.
Well, it better not be clickbait, all right? Is there some tragic end? What are you talking about? We're sitting here at 93.9. We're sitting pretty.
I know.
Okay, previous week's trade. Let's keep it on point. Let's keep it on point. Previous week.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to the horrible news later. Please stay tuned, like and subscribe. Last week on Sacred Prophet. Last week on Sacred Prophet.
Oh, God. I shouldn't
Sunday
have got
Fuel.
you that mixer.
All right, so we had a previous trades, which is started on this week, right? This was the week. And we talked about it over here. So the idea here was that we were expecting some bullishness. Remember I said by April 21st, and what was that? April 21st? Like basically the night before, the 21st? I mean, I'm nailing it with the dates and I don't know. I just find it to be incredible. The other day I was looking at myself in the mirror and it felt like my eyes were glowing gold. You ever get that? Of course you never did. Never mind. But I mean, like, something that happens in you when you live in this multidimensional, timeless state, where you get this, retro causality and future causality all mixed into one. It's almost like I could see the chart finished,
right,
100 years from now, and I'm just looking at what it is right now. I mean, it's like when Terrence McKenna was talking about how shamans can see what the weather would be like next week or who stole the goat, because they could just see it from that level. They could just see it. But don't worship me. Don't worship me.
So what are you saying? You were right in the previous week's trade?
Yeah, exactly. So previous week's trade, we got the move up. We talked about this on Revelations last week, and we just had the off from the lows a 22 plus move up to the top, which is totally expected. We're not wondering why. And Peter, where are we headed towards? Obviously, this is the level we're headed towards. That's where we're being pulled to the VWAP level that was not mitigated towards the top. With this whole daily VWAP and a weekly VWAP near each other. Now, remember when we did our Revelations, I talked about how this level here, this is where we were. The price was over here. And the question was whether it would break through, continue some momentum, or move down to the weekly level, these two weekly levels that are down here, right? So we still have the 84.6 level that has not been mitigated, and the 80 handle on Bitcoin that has not been mitigated. And we're moving up towards, the momentum was moving us up towards it. Now the momentum's moving up because of the liquidations. We've talked about it for weeks, this idea that there were billions of dollars of shorts versus millions of dollars of longs. And there's no two ways about it. If you have a long position, might never need to sell. Well, that's not true. It could get liquidated, but short positions get cleared out way easier than long positions. And we had billions of dollars worth of shorts. So when those got cleared out, just ratcheted upwards, we get these large spike moves up, right? So these are happening because of liquidations that are happening. And then over here is what we're seeing, the retail is pushing the price up continue the momentum a little bit, but obviously you're seeing it's not step changes like what you get with liquidations. This makes sense to you, Peter?
Yes.
All right. So we burst through this level on our last revelations, and where did we go to? We went to the 3-month VWAP. We don't talk about the 3-month VWAP much. We'll talk about it today, but we don't normally talk about it much because it's this long-term quarterly trend that that the price moves towards. After that, when we clear that level, we came back down to our wave, and we continued moving up to the trend line here. This is a trend line that's holding. Okay, this trend line. I haven't talked about it much. I did talk about this level because in this whole area over here is this area of resistances that we have to get through that we talked about on Revelations.
All right.
So
can you change that to white? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can click hide at the bottom there too.
So this was the seasonal average. This purple line is the seasonal average. So we moved from the yearly up to the seasonal, which we cleared. We cleared the 3-month. This trend line has been created from the points over here. So this pivot point and this pivot point. And then we also have this weekly level that has not been mitigated yet. So totally, just like we said on the Revelations, totally expect that we can get moves up to those levels. And this is what we saw here. We saw last week that we moved up to this seasonal average, to this level over here for the wave trend, and then over here for the 3-month average. The other trades that we talked about for the week was moving down towards the weekly VWAPs, right? So this was the weekly trade 2 weeks ago, and this was the weekly trade last week. Right. And as you can see, we did not touch those. We blew past. And not only did we blow past those, we also blew past the daily level, almost all the daily levels moving up to here. Okay? So essentially, all the trades last week didn't work, except for the most important one, which is where we said that when you get down to the 74 level, you want to be going long.
Right.
The bias is towards the long. But
wait, you were calling it the trades, but you weren't, from what I remember, you weren't saying that we're for sure going to hit those levels. We could go up, then go down.
That's why I didn't even tweet them out. I didn't even tweet out these daily levels because there was no, like, with the liquidations that were happening in crypto, there was just no real reason to believe that these levels would be easily hit. I thought they would be hard pressed. As you can see from our trend indicator, over here, we had green, 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 then yellow sideways, green again, yellow, and then green, green, yellow, green. Like, we were just this bullishness all the way up. There was no red that showed up, and no indication that there was any sort of weakness that would pull us back to these levels. Right? Nothing was actually saying anything about that.
But we could still go down there.
Well, I think we will go down there.
All right, that's for the next segment. All right, yeah. Go ahead.
So the trades for the week past, all of them essentially failed, and except for the one of we're still biased to the long side. Mm-hmm. Now, looking at the chart now, what I said last week was that if we actually get this, where we actually, because we hadn't hit this level, right? So when we talked about it last week, I said if we don't actually hit this weekly level and we skip out on the daily levels, this is almost the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that Bitcoin falls straight down. Yeah. But even that's not really the worst case scenario, because what happens is that all these levels essentially need to be cleared one way or another. They can only be cleared by the price coming down to revisit it, or the yearly wave moving up to cross them. Now, as you remember, it took 2 months for the wave to cross the 74 level down over here.
Yeah.
Because this yearly wave does not move quickly. This is not going to suddenly move up. So for the yearly level to come up to the 80,000, I mean, it would take basically 6 months worth of consolidation at least for that to occur. So that's not happening. Which means, well, I mean, it could happen if the price keeps blasting upwards.
Right.
But the bias is towards the downside for this, because we generally clear these levels out. So my expectation is either where we are right now, I'm actually in a short right now, or at the 96.4 level, which I've been calling out for weeks now, or at this daily level here at 97.6, or even at these trend levels up here. All these would be areas I would be taking small shorts. If we don't get any significant dips. And what I was saying on Revelations is that a dip here, once we get this bounce off the yearly trend, like let me show you what happened last time. Once we get the bounce off the trend, actually a lot of times, we get this reversal down in order to clear some of the levels out. And then we keep moving up, right? The question is, are we, some people might think, well, this is where we're in the step change, right? So we're not going to get out. What's happening is that it moved up really quickly, we're moving sideways, and then we're going to keep moving up still. This is possible. The reason I doubt it is that we're not near any wave levels. We're not near a trend. We're not near, see all the supportive flows in these waves? They're all consolidating together. Even if you're looking at over here, we still got to pull back down to the trend. Sorry, not the trend. Yeah, the trend lines. We still got to pull back in, and then a little bit momentum up, come back in, and then even more still, right? So even in these big bullish moves, it still needs to gain the momentum up. It has to pull back down and then launch. So what I see over here, we get this bounce and this launch up, but we need some correction to get more of that juice. And to me, it's no coincidence that now this level over here, this lowest unmitigated level for the week, is now going to coincide with this trend line over here. This often means that we're going to pull back down to over here. This will be where the confirmation happens, and then we move up. All right.
That's gonna shake a lot of paper hands.
Yes, this is what I was saying last week, that we're going to get that we perfectly 15% down, and we'll get the narrative again that this was a truncated cycle.
Right.
All right. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing in the future. That's just what it is. I'm just telling you what's essentially guaranteed to happen. Right? I don't really know why we'll get down there at 15% draw. I don't know why. All I can tell you is what, when, how, and where.
Okay, well, that's good.
I know, Peter, that I'm the sacred prophet.
No.
But
no.
Don't worship me.
No.
Just follow my
Nobody's
words
worshiping you
to the letter.
No.
Look,
I'll follow your words to the letter.
What OT level are you? What OT level are you? Because you sound like an OT level 2. Just so you know, you're giving OT level 2 right now.
So I want to make sure we're clear. So I want to clear out previous week before we move on to the next. So are we still in previous week? What do you got to say about the previous week's trade?
Previous week, all the trades did not work out, pulling towards the weekly level. In fact, that's the only trade I already talked about, pulling down to the weekly level. That didn't work. So you lose that 2.5% or 5%, depending on what your position is, and you just let that go. But the idea is that you should have a bias long. You should be long Bitcoin right now, either as a core position or for your leverage trades. So that's the week pass. The week ahead is we might get a spike up to some of these levels moving up here, especially this 96.4 level. And then we should expect a 15% correction during the next week. Right? So it's tough. It can be tough. Now, there is a possibility where for the next week that with this run up, that let's say we come over here, we bounce off the VWAP level, we clear 96.4, we clear the daily levels, it gets pulled up to the trend level, gets pulled up still, that we actually end up, so it comes to over here, that we actually overshoot, let's say. And if this happens, then it's totally possible that when we come back down, we only come down to the 96.4 level, because there's a lot of support over here once we get past it. And it's not likely that we get a, let's call it, 30% drop. This is not likely. Not within a week anyway. So we'll see what the price action looks like for the week ahead. It looks like the weekly trade for this week is going to be opening up around 91.7. Let's call it 91.8. It'll be over here somewhere. So what is that? That's a bias towards the downside. So we'll see. Once that happens, this daily level is close by, so I wouldn't be surprised to see we come underneath there, bounce, go up, reconfirm this breakdown, and then now we start a write down. I would not be surprised to see that. Just like I wouldn't be surprised to see a bounce off the weekly level and then a move up to 96.4, and then potentially a continuation or rejection and come back down. What you want to happen in a long Bitcoin scenario, a bullish Bitcoin scenario, is that we pull back to this 80,000 level tout de suite. Like, we want this to happen as soon as possible, because if it's sharp and violent, what will happen is that it'll liquidate a bunch of longs. It'll get a lot of short people short in the position, and then that would be enough fuel for us to bounce off this trend level over here, again around 80,000, and then move our way back up. This whipsawing in the market, especially a highly leveraged market, is what you need in order to clear out a bunch of the positions. And then once you clear out a bunch of shorts, a bunch of longs, the bias is always towards long, right? The secular bias for any asset is long, unless there's something fundamentally wrong with the company or the fundamental structure. But since we are still in the scenario where we're getting this liquidity boost, basically up until the summer, my expectation is that we pull back and that we continue moving forward. So over here, the pullback that we're experiencing right now, you see this red area over here, Peter, is matching with this area over here that we're talked about. So this is what we talked about on Revelations, which is why you don't want to miss the Revelations. These are I don't want to call it Bible study, because it's far more important than that. But this is where we talked about this. So you have this.
Well, just make sure people are clear what Revelation is. So you do Sunday Fuel on Sunday. This tells you recaps the previous week's trade, lets you know how that worked out, and the upcoming week's trade. And then Revelation are these touch points during the week to kind of keep you steady and let you know how things are going. Is that right?
That's right, Aaron. So we end up over here where the down should continue until about May 1st. And I get that because the offset of 78 days for the global liquidity trend is the correct offset. I'm sorry, Raul. I'm sorry, some of those other people, though we have different times, you're not sure what it is. 78 is the period. 78 is a holy number. Not because it was a holy number before, it became holy once the sacred prophet announced it. I don't know. It's me and Richard Hart. We call these things at the tops and the bottoms. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, so I'm going to channel my Max Kaiser, my inner Max Kaiser. Is 220 still in play?
Oh, absolutely. So what happens is that as of May 1st, we're going to get another bump up, then some sideways moves with a bias towards the upside. We'll get a little bit of doubt in the middle of May, as might be expected. I think that'll be around the Fed meeting. I think there's a Fed meeting this May. Actually, let me just double check. I'd like to know. Following months. Fed meeting. FOMC 7th, yeah. All right. And then we're going to get some sort of liftoff around May 20th or so, where we're just going to rocket up. By there, we should get to, that'll be around all-time highs. So by mid-May, we should be at like 100, 110,000. That'll carry some momentum over. I don't know if that'll bring us all the way up to 120. I have no idea. We move sideways for a bit. And then in June, middle of June, then we rocket up even higher still. So this will all depend on how much leverage gets poured into the system, how sharp these moves are, how much volatility there is. The more certainty there is for the longs, as far as narrative concern, as far as a position is concerned, the more likely is that we get to higher numbers. But by essentially July, beginning of July, that's where we should be getting to 200 something level.
Okay,
We'll
so
see.
Bitcoin's tragic end? Not quite.
Well, it's because it's been so bullish recently. This 15% pullback could be very painful for a lot of people. Not us, because you have the vision of the sacred profit in your back pocket.
Okay.
But for a lot of people, it'll be painful.
So I was listening to you on Trader's Post after hours, and there was something I wanted to ask you about. It sounded like you said, given what was happening in the rest of the market, you were surprised that Bitcoin was doing what it was doing.
Surprised in a certain sense. So the rest of the market, we had stuff like the S&P and the NASDAQ. There was still some bullish momentum, some bullish moves, but not like Bitcoin, right? I mean, pretty significant. So let's say NASDAQ. Well, NASDAQ is basically tech. So we had off the lows of S&P, we had 14%, which is still pretty significant. But we haven't reclaimed the 200-day moving average. It's still, in a bearish trend. We also had gold pull back a bit, although this is, great time to start accumulating some gold. And we had a dollar bounce over here. So there was so much uncertainty within the markets. In fact, I think the S&P was really buoyed by like two assets. I think it was like Tesla and Nvidia. I'm not sure which ones, but they were the vast majority of the stocks were not performing very, very well. Some of them went up, some of them went down, some of them went down a lot. So the idea here is when the equities are doing poorly, you're expecting some sort of correlation with Bitcoin. But there's something here about where I haven't actually wrapped my head around. I'm going to have to ask the Shams and go look inside of the ether at the different levels a little bit more deeply. But what is happening is that gold is a flight to safety. But if you can imagine tariffs on the United States, let's say it's bad for the United States. It's good for other countries. This is something that Peter Schiff gets right, or you got right years ago, that it's actually, to some extent, a drain on other countries' resources to export their goods to the United States, right? They're making everything, the United States consumes it. And the currency suffers because of the world reserve currency. They almost have to manage their own currency reserves versus the dollar. But the dollar has been falling, right? Now, normally if the dollar is falling dramatically, the dollar is below 100, fall dramatically, that usually means equities go up, right? People are selling the dollar in order to buy equities. But it looks like they're selling the dollar for things abroad. So I don't know exactly, we haven't seen the numbers, but you would expect to see a rebound in bonds and in, no, not bonds. You see a rebound in equities and you're not seeing that. Like a significant rebound. The dollar is below 100 the first time in the last 10 years or whatever. Not 10 years, but since, let me get the actual number. Since 2022, so before COVID, like this 100 level over here is a significant level. And we're not just below it, we're plummeting. So you would expect to see equities booming, and that's not happening. But you are seeing Bitcoin booming. And you should have to keep in mind here that Bitcoin is not a US asset. Even though we all denominate Bitcoin in US dollars, it's like gold, it's not a US asset. And so United States cannot buy Bitcoin at all, and it could still go up.
So you think people are fleeing the dollar for Bitcoin?
Well, imagine, I think Charles had a great point about this. Let me see if I have the video because I love to play it. Don't switch just yet. 1 second.
While he's getting that video, I want to remind everyone we do Sunday Fuel every Sunday. This lets you know the previous week's trade and the trade ahead. You can go and follow Tom, Sacred Profit, on X, Sacred Profit, and you can find out the trades there. So maybe you don't have time for a full video or whatever. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them in. We'll answer them, diagnose the charts for you, help you understand the market better. Sacred Prophet is offering a indicators and a signal set that is aimed or tailored for 50x leverage, and this is unique in this space. Something you definitely want to check out. So you can check out our past videos. You can take a look at X for more information. We'll talk more about that later.
All right, so this is a quick video from Charles Hoskinson, founder of the greatest cryptocurrency in the world, Cardano, who was talking about this idea of tariffs.
What ends up happening is crypto benefits in the long term, because geopolitically what's happening is we're moving from a rules-based international order to a great powers conflict. Now, we're kind of young, so we spent our entire adult lives under a rules-based international order, but our parents and grandparents, they lived under a great powers conflict. It was the United States and the Soviet Union going at it. So it didn't matter what the trade deal was, it didn't matter what the rule law was. If the Soviet Union wanted to do something, or US wanted to do something, they just do it. And now we go back to great powers conflict. If Russia wants to invade Ukraine, it invades Ukraine. If China wants to invade Taiwan, it's going to do that. So treaties don't really work so well, and global business doesn't really work so well there. So your only option for globalization is crypto. If you want to do business with countries the United States doesn't like, or Russia doesn't like, or China doesn't like, in a global commons, you can no longer do that through treaty organizations or legacy banks and things. You can only do that through crypto.
Just to get back to kind of where we currently are, you don't think we're heading towards another crypto winter at all?
No. I think Bitcoin will be over 250,000 by the end of this year or next year.
What's going to drive that, do you think?
What'll happen is that the tariff stuff will be a dud, and then people will realize that the world is willing to negotiate. And it's really just U.S. versus China, and a lot of people will side with us, some people side with China. The markets will stabilize a little bit, and they'll get used to the new normal.
Anyways, great. I thought it was a great analysis there, because we're seeing that because crypto, especially Bitcoin, is not a U.S. asset, and it's useful for everybody, and in a period of instability where you need to be able to trade with people under the table or without using the standard systems or whatever it is, there's a bid there. There can be a bid there for Bitcoin. And so, and we're seeing that with the selling of the dollar without people then rotating it into equities, it means they're buying something else. Well, it's no coincidence that the dollar falls, that the dollar fell 5%, and then Bitcoin rallied 15%. Like, this is not a coincidence. The dollar fell and the Bitcoin went up, which means some of that purchasing power went into Bitcoin. Like, that's how it works. That's how it goes.
News. That's fantastic. That means the plan is working. The CIA's plan is working.
That's right. Exactly.
Bitcoin
just
eats
convert
everything.
all debt into Bitcoin and then jubilee everything, reset the entire system.
That's
In
right.
a sort of like a great reset type of situation.
That's right. The greater reset. I think we should start.
Hey, the Holy Global Empire needs its pound of flesh. Let's give it to it. So yeah, that's what's surprising about that's what surprised me about the deep rise in Bitcoin. 22% off the lows is not like nothing for Bitcoin, even for a 70 vol asset, without a corresponding thing for equity. So it's like this decoupling that's happening. So we should expect to see that as the dollar keeps selling off, even if we're not seeing equities go up, we should see Bitcoin keep rising. And if it's rising because of what I'm talking about, where other nations are buying into it, well, that means that's like the best kind of institutional adoption, not performance-based, but because they have to, which is the whole game theory behind Bitcoin. So 250,000 to 400,000, like these numbers are totally within the realm of it. And if that's what's actually happening, well, yeah, $1 million with Bitcoin is going to happen, because what are you going to do? You need it.
Exciting times. Look, whenever you hear these things, just remember, when it comes to Tom's strategy indicator set signal, how do you call it? What do you call it again?
Indicator library.
Indicator library. What he's pitching here is can be profitable in a bullish, a bull market, bear market, or sideways, right? So you can make money either way. So you got to stop caring, baby birds. Just stop caring so much about, it's not going up. Oh, it's not. Do you want to make money, or do you want Bitcoin to go up? You think those are the same thing? They're not. All right. And you start paying attention to this guy. Echoes be damned. He knows what he's talking about. There, I said it.
I should just mention, though, that just to support that idea, that like I remember something that our enemies, our adversaries, don't keep in mind, and that's despite all the movements in Bitcoin, despite all the things in equities, despite everything that's happening there, us, the chosen people, the new chosen people, we are still here. We are still here.
What does that mean?
It's a quote from the great Morpheus.
What?
There's a quote from the great Morpheus
Oh, I see.
from the historical matrix.
Okay,
We won't be shaken. We're going to make the money necessary in order to prosper in the new holy global empire. And we're going to fill it with the right morality and the right direction. We just have to get through this hard time.
Well, that I agree with.
Yeah. And I won't make it to the promised land, right?
Let's hope.
The sacred prophet won't make it to the promised land. But I do it for you. I do it for the people.
Of all the people, thank you, Tom. Now get back to work.
Excellent. All right. See you guys on the next Revelations and next Sunday for more Sunday Fuel. Ciao. Don't worship me.
No, you're